Hello everyone and welcome back to the London Chess Classic. We have a real treat for you in this one. It's sort of a feast for the eyes and the soul as it features the Berlin defense. It's Andrei Volokitin, Ukrainian Grandmaster against Hans Moke Niemann. And the Berlin defense is a really weird opening. It gained a lot of popularity in the year 2000 when World Chess Championship challenger Vladimir Kramnik used it very successfully against the then world champion Garry Kasparov without allowing Kasparov to win a single game with the white pieces. That's how strong it was. Kasparov even had to deviate from trying e4. He also had to employ other openings, but over the course of a couple of games where it was used, Kramnik was just so incredibly solid that 15 games without a single win. That's against Kasparov. That is absolutely amazing. He won, I think, the second game and also one other game. So just he won 2 games against Kasparov and just won the match, became world champion. And ever since then, it's been used in all sorts of ways. It's been used to get very quick draws. It's been used to surprise your opponents. If you guys remember, in 2018 candidates tournament, Vladimir Kramnik again used it with the black pieces against Levon Aronyan, and he completely obliterated him with that G5 line. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. Will be the first link in the description below. But yeah, everyone uses it in all the time formats. If you guys enjoy it, you will love this game. So let's see how Hans played it against Andrei here, because even when you think nothing is happening, something is happening. So let's check it out. Andrei has the white pieces. He opens with pawn to e4. We already advertised the Berlin defense, so let's go. The Ruy Lopez is on the board, and knight to f6, the Berlin defense. We have castles, knight captures on e4, and now pawn to d4. The Rio Gambit accepted. Also the main line of the Berlin, knight to d6, bishop captures, d captures, and d captures on e5. So the queens come off the board, knight to f5, and now queen captures on d8 and king captures on d8. And this is where usually these games begin, where white has to decide on how to continue. The top move here is knight to c3, but if you're wondering about rook to d1 check and bishop to g5 check, you can play them, but they're really nothing. It's very easy for black to consolidate. Okay, you have to move the king one more time, but let's say after knight to c3, bishop is, or even if you threaten checkmate, it doesn't matter, just bishop to e6, so bishop to e6, and now after, let's say, rook a to d1, already after bishop to b4, white will be having some problems here, because, well, this is just very annoying, and if you move the knight, then bishop to d5, already black is in control of the entire board, so you can't just play whatever, so you have to play it correctly. h3 is the second most popular move here, bishop to e7, trying to trade off this knight with knight to h4, and now knight to c3. We have knight to h4, knight captures, bishop captures, and now just nicely developing with bishop to e3. Pawn to h5, Hans wants to bring back the bishop and then advance the pawn to h4 to control the king side. You don't want to allow any unnecessary expansion here. And now knight to e2. Rook to d1 check is by far the most popular, but here Andrei goes for a different plan, knight to e2. And now again, there are games in this position, bishop to e7, a well-known game between Karyakin and Maxim Vachier-Lagrave from the 2018 Batumi Olympiad that ended in a draw. But here we have king to e8 by Hans, and it is now as of move 13 that we have a completely new game. So okay, pawn to f3, setting up for that the g4 pawn push, and now bishop goes back to e7. Hans, of course, is hoping to play h4 to prevent the g4, but Andrei beats him to it. So g4, and now you could capture, and it seems like a very good idea to have your rook control the h-file, although there doesn't seem to be all that much you can do after this. So Hans waits with it. After this pawn to g4 pawn push, he plays pawn to f5. He puts more pressure on the g4 pawn. So now e captures on f6, en passant, but not bishop captures, the move you'd expect to go after the b2 pawn, which probably objectively is the best. Then white has to play something like bishop to d4. The bishops get traded off, and it's a nice position. Instead, he goes for g captures on f6. He goes for sort of an unbalanced position where he will look for his chances in the semi-open or soon-to-be open g file. We have knight to f4, eyeing that g6 square, and Hans just trades on g4. H captures on g4, F captures on g4. Now the knight is guarding the h3 pawn, and now pawn to f5. And it looks like you've accomplished everything. You're going to trade on g4. You're going to develop the bishop, get the rook into the game. However, there's rook 8 to e1. And now your king being in the center doesn't really do you all that many favors. To give you an example, if f captures on g4, bishop to c5, and black resigns. Already it's game over. You can defend it once, but then the knight attacks it again, and black is unable to deliver more defenders to the e7 bishop. So after rook 8 to e1, Hans has to unpin, king to f7, and now bishop to d4 goes after the rook, rook to d8 goes after the bishop, and now Hans is banking on after this is settled by moving the bishop or something, he can play rook back to g8, or he can even trade on g4. Not likely, as the rook is on f1, so probably just rook back to g8, but here Andrei beats him to the punch. He plays rook captures on e7 with check, king captures, and now bishop to c5 check. So he gets the bishop out of harm's way. And now, if you're wondering what's the idea behind the exchange sacrifice, well, the idea is that now after you move out of check, pawn to g5. So you sacrifice the exchange, but you will get two connected pass pawns on the king side, which, is definitely compensation in itself. And now, the cleanest way to handle this sort of insolence by Andrei is to play b6. Everything has to come with tempo, and after the bishop moves, the bishop to a6 attacks the rook, also comes with tempo. After the rook moves, now you counter the rook, you bring the other rook into the game. You've developed everything, and hopefully you can defend against those pawns. That's objectively best. But here Hans played rook to g8, also comes with tempo, but now after h4 he went for bishop to e6, and this is now a problem. Perhaps b6 was still a plan, but after bishop to e6 the game is now completely winning for Andrei, but you have to find the correct idea. Now, what did Hans miss here, and why is it such a difficult position to hold? Feel free to pause the video and try to find the absolute best move for Andrei while I give you a couple of seconds. So, for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on realizing the power of the passed pawns. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it is king to f2. This is the move that Andrei played, and I'm sure when Hans saw this, he realized what was coming, or maybe he saw it even before he played his previous move, but he maybe thought Andrei would not play it. But now, as the knight already guards g6, the king just freed up the square for the rook, will control a g6 additionally, and now g6 will be a terrible threat to face. Then, of course, h6, h5, h6, and so on. And now the question is, how does Hans stop this? Does he just continue development and he allows this rook to g1 idea? We have to see what happens there. If he goes rook 8 to d8, okay, you go after rook to d2 check. Of course, white will stop this, bishop to e3, and then you're pretty much out of moves. Let's say you go back, but because you don't want the bishop hanging here all the time, so bishop back to c8. Now rook g1, and after, let's say, king to g7, h5 is coming. Now you might play something like rook to d6, g6 is coming, and once you move the rook, let's say rook e8, even h6 with check, and black pretty much resigns here. There's nothing to do here. You either allow the pawns to advance further, or you capture here. And now look at this, knight e6 check, the king has to go down the board, king to h5, knight g7 check, again the king has to go down the board, bishop g5 check, king has to go down the board, rook to g3 check, king has to go down the board, and now you capture the rook. But of course your main idea is to checkmate the black king. Even if rook captures on g6, there's even knight back to f6. There's really no move for white here, black here, as white is up a piece. But just to give you a fancy way to finish things, you can even play knight to g4, sacrifice the knight for this beautiful checkmate, bishop to f4, and now there's no defense. Rook to g2 will be a double check, and then king h3, let's say whatever you play, rook g2 check, king h3, rook to h2 will be checkmate. So whatever you play here will be lost if you allow these pawns to advance forward. So of course Hans is very resilient. He finds rook to g6, and he hopes that Andrei captures it so he can put his king here and stop the advancement of the pawns, but of course you will not do that. Andrei plays rook to g1. Now h5 is a threat as g5 is no longer hanging, so rook 8 to g8, now again stopping h5 because he can play rook captures on g5, and now rook to e1. This again reintroduces the threat of pawn to h5, because if a rook captures here, then the bishop on e6 will hang. So rook to e8, Hans says, all right, you move the rook from the g file, I move the rook from the g file. So Andrei brings it back, Hans also brings it back, and here Of course, once you see a repetition like this, you start dreaming of a draw. But stronger players will often repeat positions just to see, how you're doing, to see if you are present psychologically, to see if maybe it rattles you, but also, it's sort of the gentlemanly thing to do. So bishop to d4. We have bishop to d5 and now bishop to e5, going after the c7 pawn. Whatever happens on the king side will happen on the king side. There's no stopping that, but you might as well snatch a pawn while you're at it. So pawn to b5 and now bishop captures on c7. We have bishop to e4 going after the c2 pawn, but now rook to d1, going after rook to d7 check. And now, okay, you could prevent it with bishop to d5, but it's very easily stopped. b3 again going for c4, and if you stop that, just rook d4 starts collecting, as a5 is impossible due to bishop covering the a5 square. So okay, Hans says let's go for it. Bishop captures on c2, but now rook to d7 with check. King to e8 was played, and now we have rook to d8 with check. King back to f7, another repetition, rook to d7 check, king to e8, and now we have rook to d2 with tempo as the bishop is hanging, but now not bringing the bishop back, because then Andrei would even consider capturing the rook here. He goes for rook 6 to g7, attacks the bishop, and now just bishop back to e5. Again, with tempo on the rook, rook to h7 goes after the pawn here, and now comes bishop to f6. And what is the idea here? The bishop is still hanging, rook to d8 check is coming. There's really not all that much to do here. If you play bishop to e4, then the rook on h7 is just stranded. For example, rook to d8 with check, king f7, and rook here will win the h7 rook. You have to go back, and then just rook captures on h7 will win you the game. So Hans tried one last idea. He played rook to f8, sort of to avoid checks and put his king on g8 to defend the h7 rook, but it doesn't work. Rook to d8 check, and he was in this position on move 39 before even reaching time control that Hans Niemann resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. The point is that after king to f7, of course, you will not go for check and allow king to g8. You will just play g6 with check, and that's it. King captures. You will play rook captures on f8 check first, and after the king moves, you will even play rook to f7 check. Doesn't matter. King to g8, rook captures on h7. You're up a full rook. You have two connected passed pawns. You can win this however you want. After rook to d8 check, Hans resigned, and this means a lot for the standings, because now the leader is still Michael Adams, who won a very nice game against Gilles Moussard. We've shown the position. He was lost, but then Moussard blundered, and Michael was able to win the game, followed by Gukesh on 4 points. So Michael Adams 4.5 out of 6, Gukesh 4 out of 6, Amin Tabatabai 3.5 out of 6, Hans on clean 50%, 3 out of 6, Mateusz Bartel 3 out of 6, Andrei Volokitin 3 out of 6, Gilles Moussard 3 out of 6, then Nikita Vityugov on 2.5 out of 6, Shreyas Royal 2 out of 6, and Luke McShane on 1.5 out of 6. So we'll see what happens. It's still a very close tournament. Adams in the lead by half a point. Will still... He already played Gukesh, so Gukesh, if he wants to win the tournament, he's going to have to do it somewhere else. But like we said, Gukesh is playing Hans Niemann in the final round. We'll see what happens. That's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Berlin defense, you never know how it's going to go. Sometimes it's going to be a nice surprise, like I mentioned in the candidates tournament 2018, where Kramnik completely obliterated Aronya. If you haven't seen it, first link in the description below. Mind-blowing game, but sometimes white will just outplay you like this. It was the exchange sacrifice wasn't even the best move for Andrei here, but it worked out perfectly fine. Once again, really hope you enjoyed it. I would like to wish a very happy birthday to Bushan Barsagade, and I would like to thank David Gasparian, Grogo Gnome, Rick Schaefer, and Albert Villardel for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.